वेट करेंगे.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. शुरू करती हूँ अल्लाह के नाम से जो बड़ा मेहरबान और निहायत रहम करने वाला. As always, let us begin our advanced conference today in the name of God Almighty, and for that I will request one of you for recitation from the Holy Quran. So, any one of you kindly come up. Almighty. I believe we have Dr. Shafaq. Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Shaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Welcome everyone. And how is the morning? How are you? How are you? Did we have our breakfast? No, because if you had, the voice would be more powerful than that, right? And it's how we are going to begin today. That's exactly how we are going to end it. So let's begin with an energetic mood. And there are many, many new faces, mashallah. So first of all, on behalf of London Montessori International, we welcome the newcomers to the advanced conference. And let's just have a raise of a hand for those of you who are attending the conference for the first time. Okay, that's lovely. Welcome to London Montessori, and you are the privileged one who is getting the opportunity to do the advanced course. By the end of the course, you will realize how lucky and how chosen you were that you are holding an advanced diploma in your hand. Your training will be amazing. You will discover a new world in the entire LMI, but here in the conference, where you get an opportunity to learn beyond your expectation. Today's conference and the monthly conference is basically divided into three aspects, and that is, one is the lecture sessions. There are lectures by our experts, and you are supposed to be focusing on the lectures when the lectures are going on. You are advised, each one of you, to have a notebook, a register, जिसकी heading है advanced course, and on monthly basis you will be making notes, slight notes. You won't be writing down the complete lecture, so that's going to help you to revise and study and understand the system better, and especially when it comes to the final examination. And after the final examination, when you become a practicing Montessorian, you will always have those information, because the information that is there in the book, that's one aspect. But when we give you the lectures, we share our own experiences and our own link that we have made with the child and the Montessori and the world today. So that's one aspect. Once the lectures are going on, you're going to only focus on the lecture. Then there is going to be, what is the second session?
Test.
Okay, because most students think advanced conference only means the test. No, the lectures are equally important. And once test is going on, there is, like you switch your channel to test channel, and there's nothing but test. For the newcomers, today is the most relaxing and enjoyable session for you, because no test today, but with effect from next month, you will be giving your first test, for which we will guide you during the test break. Once previous students are giving their test, you will be guided by one of the experts as to how to go along the study, but you will get the course perspective. After that, is going to be a well-deserved break, a tea break. And I will, once again, and each month we will be reminding you that this tea break is the most important part of your training. Because we know what happens in our wedding ceremonies and so on. Everybody says and everybody complains that who are the people who rush, and I am not the one. But then who is it? The last month, one of the students, she made a movie of our students having their tea break, and you will be embarrassed. I mean, it was like by the time the man with the cookies or sandwiches, he couldn't reach the table. People just like, so there's enough for everyone. Food is not running out of fashion and it's not going anywhere. Let's really this time and in future as well, wherever you are, you've got to be a living example of a trained directress. And this lady called a trained Montessori directress, she is different. Her personality changes. The way she walks, the way she talks, the way she moves about, the way she closes the door. Nobody slams the door when you're trained. So eating also, taking food just enough, because let's not get into the detail of that. But inshallah, you don't need any guidelines. You don't need. Get going to be the lecture session and then the announcement of your result, along with the distribution of the seminar certificate which you attended last month. One more reminder and advice to all newcomers and previous students or guest students, the normal course students or any guest who are attending, please kindly make sure you have at least 12 photographs of yourself in your purse. And don't change the purse whenever you come in. Because we forget. And a lady without a purse, she's nothing. I only discovered that yesterday. Yesterday in the afternoon, I left my purse at home. And after that, I had no brush, I didn't have any lipstick, nothing to freshen up with, no money, no ATM card, nothing. So we ladies really, because I was then wondering, men don't need to have purse. And this is simply managed just with a wallet. So Montessori, the most important thing that you should have in your purse, the one that you will bring to the advanced conference. Photographs. How many? 12. More than 12. At least 12 plus. And it could be a passport size or a thumb size. With your name. Which book we are going to do, which book we have finished, which book we are going to start. Any idea? Secret of Childhood. Secret of Childhood. We are, excuse me, there's a topic also. The speaker is Anju Makhtar, and that's me. And the topic is the era of the child. Okay. Now let us just focus on what that means. The title of the book, Secret of the Childhood. What is the meaning of the word secret? Something hidden. Excellent. We all know. Childhood. The tender age. Before we are an adult, we are children. So the early age, especially between the 0 to 6 years, that is the phase, that is the time that is known as childhood. And in this book, we are going to discover the secret. There are 4 books for the advanced course. The first book is The Absorbent Mind. The second book is The Discovery of the Child. The third book is Basic Montessori, and this is the last book. And those of you who are giving your test, the last 4 tests, that is 9, 10, 11 and 12 will be taken from this book. This book is, that's maybe my personal opinion, this book is one of the easiest and the simplest book. There could be two reasons for it. Since it's the last book, that means you've gone through all the 4 books. So by the time you reach the 9th test and understanding, reading becomes easier. But the writing that is used for this book, the words, the expression, it's very simple. So my personal definition of the book, The Secret of the Childhood, it's like the whole book is a chapter. The entire book. Chapter about the secret of the child. And the entire book, which is just a chapter, and a chapter has many paragraphs. So each of the chapters in the books are like paragraphs. They are very short, sometimes 1 page, 1.5 page, but there are many topics. Today there are unlimited number of topics, but it could be just a 15 minutes lecture, 10 minutes lecture, 20 minutes lecture. They run into each other, and eventually by the time we are done with all the lecture, you would have discovered the secret of the child. So, the first topic is, what is the meaning of the word era? Yes, the period. So now I'm not talking, and I always have to explain that when I'm just like addressing you and when I'm giving the lecture. So I'm starting off with my lecture, and it's about the child. If we go back in time, children were not given any importance. Long time ago, and history has it that their death rate was immense. I mean, a family may have 12 children, only 2 survive. Due to the reason there were disease such as cholera, diarrhea, smallpox, chickenpox, fatal diseases, and they would just not be able to survive through it, and they usually die in very early age. What could be the reason behind that? The reasons were that people were not aware, they were ignorant, there were not enough medical facilities. So at that time, we're talking about the 18th century, the doctors and the adults, the responsible people in that made up the body of a country, they put their heads together and they started to focus on children's health care. And once they did that, there was definitely an improvement in the physical health of children. Many of them survived now. Instead of the death rate being 10 out of 12, it 2 died, and then it improved. Maybe only 1 died or no one died due to any health factor because there were remedies. Is that one aspect of this information very clear? Long ago, no importance was given to the child at all, and then slowly with the passage of time, awareness, when people began to realize that children do not survive, children can't make it, and they die very early, the doctors, they put their heads together and they focus their attention on child's care, the health of the child. But was that enough? Is that what is required for a child to grow up to be a happy, normal, healthy adult? No. So in the 19th century, psychologists and even Dr. Mark, okay. So there was still something lacking. Although the children physically they didn't have too many problem like they didn't have any eyesight problem or hearing problem, but that was 50% of the child as a whole. The child is a complete being when we put together 2 aspects, and that is the physical aspect and the mental. no one paid any attention to the psychic part of the child, not that is his mental being, to nourish his mind. There was a psychologist, Charcot, C-H-A-R-C-O-T. He did a lot of research and he focused and he came up with a research and experimental theory that the problems that is seen in the life of the adult, the root cause, the beginning of that can be traced down to childhood. If you and I have some major mental problem, chances are that it didn't just happen as an adult. It can be traced back to childhood. So a new branch of science came into being known as psychoanalysis. Have you ever heard of that? In movies you might see people can hypnotize you and they'll take a pendant and just move it in front of your eyes and say, look, now you're floating, you're going back and you're going back, and they take you back in time, where from the conscious mind that we possess right now to the early childhood where there was unconsciousness, it's not in your memory. And you are able to see, visualize, and actually experience perhaps the pain, the trauma, some sort of negativity that you might have experienced in your early childhood. For example, you may have some adults who are afraid of heights, some adults who are afraid of the dark, and that just didn't happen. If that person went through that hypnosis process and through the psychoanalysis, it could have been traced back to that when she was, maybe this girl was 4 years old, somebody always threatened her that if you don't do this, I'm going to lock you in that dark room. There is a monster there, there is Allah Baba there, and who's going to eat you up? So, the root cause of any problem that you and I, any one of us are suffering right now, and we all have our own little fears or problems. We may seem 100% normal, yet we always ask the question, is this person like all here? Is she in the same level as we will call normalization? But there was a problem. Now this process of psychoanalysis is a very painful thing, and not everybody wants to go through that. And because since we don't remember, we don't even want to know what was the problem in our early childhood. And if you don't know the problem, how could you find the solution? So one of the most critical periods in the life of the child, in fact one of the most critical periods in the life of a human being, is that moment known as the birth trauma. When we come into the world, what happens? We have been safe, we have been protected, nature took care of everything, and suddenly there is a dramatic change in the environment. And that moment, how we entered the world, will remain as a positive or a negative aspect in our personality for the rest of our life. But nobody knows, because all the care and attention is given to the mother. And the other lectures will focus on that, the newborn child. Now, the era of the child, as I was speaking about. So first there was attention given to the health care. Later on, after psychoanalysis, we realized that the child's mental aspect is equally important, in fact even more important, because if the child is lacking physically, if he is suffering from fever or pain, you can see it. But if he is suffering from some kind of mental nourishment or requirement, how could he tell you or how would you know? Now the difficult aspect for psychoanalysis is that you can take an adult back down memory lane to a certain age. And can anybody tell me what age is that? Can you take a child back to 1 year old or 0 age as soon as he's born? A little beyond 6 years to about 3 years. Why? For as Montessori students, you know one aspect that the Montessori, Dr. Maria Montessori gives the name to the child, his mind, the absorbent mind. And this absorbent mind that absorbs everything is during the period 0 to 6. But the first phase of the absorbent mind, that is 0 to 3, it is known as the unconscious. So when something is unconscious, you are not even aware of it, you don't even know if it exists. How could you remember it? None of us have any memory of when we were 2 years old. If we could remember things when we were 7 years old, why can't we remember things as if that part of our life didn't exist? And the reason for that our something called a memory, that has not developed. So if there is no memory, how could you remember? Small children don't have memory. So how could they remember? But that's an interesting fact. How could we make a statement that children do not have a memory? So if they don't have a memory, how do they learn all these things? What happens? They have something that is even more powerful than the memory. Okay? They have a terminology that is known as worldmate. That is their inner guide, inner teacher. And it gives them the command to go and adapt into the world you're born in. Go and take in the world in totality. So instead of remembering it, it becomes part of the child's personality. It becomes carnated, incarnated. It becomes him, the child. And if you are you don't have to remember who you are. Is that technical or are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Is it clear?
Yes.
Small children, they just totally absorb. They don't remember. I may see a flower, I will remember that this is a pink flower and the name of this flower is rose. But being an adult, after 1 year, if I see that flower, I may forget what was the name of this flower because it was in my memory, and memory can be lost, memory can be forgotten. But for the small children, since they do not have a memory, they just absorb it and they make that environment them. That's why each one of us end up resembling, being just like our parents. We speak the same language, we adopt the same culture, and Pakistani children end up looking Pakistani, believing in the religion and everything. Chinese children end up being Chinese because of the unconscious absorbent mind which they take in unconsciously. So the summary of this topic is that children were given no attention, then focused attention was given to their health factor. After psychoanalysis, a new branch of science being opened, they came to the conclusion that we, the adult, whatever problem that we face, whatever problem we are having today, can be traced back to childhood. And from that, why this problem are, there are two reasons. One reason is that the child in the early childhood may have been stopped from doing things, from doing activity. The adult would be imposing himself, and the other reason is that the adult themselves is like an obstacle in the natural path of the child's development. The child wants to grow straight, but some obstacles are there, some diversion are there. So now, thanks to science, thanks to many psychologists, and of course thanks to Dr. Maria Montessori for discovering the secret of the child, which is that the child is 50% important if physically, then equally 50% importance is his mental power, which not much attention was given till now. And thanks to that today we are able to focus on the mental requirement of the child, and this is the era of the child. The psychologist in the 19th century was known as the century of the child, the time for the child, and it is true. Nowadays, people, if you want to help the adult, if you want to help the society, you have to focus your attention to the child. I'm going to display some transparency which will give you the points for this topic, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Is there any question, anyone? No question. Why? Because as everybody knows, only two types of people do not ask questions. Who are they? Those who understand everything. And of course your category 1. Because the other is those who don't understand. If you don't understand, how could you possibly ask questions? I think this dialogue must be recorded in every single lecture I give. Read it, it will really summarize and help you understand what I just said. Thank you so much. At the end of the lecture, there is no problem with the transparency. Maybe your eyesight. Are you seeing good? Are you seeing it clear? Can you? Is it blurred? Get your eyes tested? Yes. The man was correct. He said to check it before displaying it. Oh, why is that? A little. For people who are sitting at the back, I'm going to read it out for you. The era of the child points to ponder, and the word ponder means to think. The progress made in recent years in the care and education of the children has been amazingly rapid. First, there has been the progress made in the care of child's health. Second, there has been new and highly important light that has been thrown on the child's personality. That's what I just told you. Ma'am, can you change it? But I'm reading it out for them. The child and psychoanalysis. What is the definition of psychoanalysis? Psychoanalysis is a system of our personality. Bring it out through the psychoanalysis. In the last century, a psychiatrist, Charcot, discovered the subconsciousness, and Freud advanced further. Making use of an elaborate technique he discovered in the way to penetrate into through and then we'll move to the next. I don't need to read it. Or would you like me to read it? No, just read it yourself. These are important points taken from the chapter.
Can we have the first slide as well? Can we have the first slide as well? Because that was not clear too.
One of the most striking discovery of psychoanalysis was that can have its origin in infancy, that is the childhood. They sprang from the repression of the child's spontaneous activity by a dominating adult. That's us. We should carefully distinguish between the two levels inquiry, and one of these comes from the struggle between the individual's natural instinct, and such conflicts can be cured since it is not difficult to bring the underlying causes of the disturbance to the level of the consciousness. The other problem is even deeper level of conflicts, that is between the child and the adult. We are the monsters in the life of the child. Also. Conclusion. A new field of scientific exploration has thus come into being about the child. Similar to but distinct from the psychoanalysis, it is concerned with what is normal rather than what is abnormal, and it strives to assess the psychic life of the children, that is the mental life. Children conceal within themselves a vital secret, capable of lifting the evil that covered the human soul, and they carry within themselves something which, if discovered, would help adults to solve their own problem in their own individual and social problem. So, where the answer lies in our problem? In discovering the child. Okay. This seminar also helps you in being able to read. So, let's see how many of you can really read. Okay. And how many can you, let's have a 3-period lesson. How many of you can associate the name with the object? Who is Nazra Amreen? She. Okay. That's the last period. Nazra Amreen. Can you, who is this? Nazra Amreen. Okay. Now, hold on, ma'am. There is a topic. Topic, the accused. The book, The Secret of the Child. Because today we have started the book. It's always interesting to give introduction of all of us. And I was Zandu Makhtar, you know that. And my students know me. I'm their teacher, and there are many. Good to see so many of. How many students from Zamzama? Let me show some teacherism. Wow, mashallah. Okay, that's really nice. Ma'am Nazra, who is she? Or maybe a better question be, what is she? Once upon a time, many years ago, this young, childish, carefree girl joined LMI as a student. And she struggled through just like you. Like studying, cheating, students copying, but she had something different. She always wanted to get more information, and according to Sir Shamim, because I didn't exist at that time, she was always found having extra books, additional book, like when she had the basic Montessori and so on, and going here, this library in her time, computer didn't exist. So, from a student, she became a part of the team, and then she has a whole, we can make a timeline on her of growing up with LMI. She was once she became a trainer, and she was a testing directress, which I remember, and in those days, like you go to a certain branch, you go to Gulistan, Jawaharlal branch and give you a test. She every day would go from this branch to that branch with a whole luggage of the test paper and the answer sheets, and she has, been really drilled and trained, and there's a witness that her personality has transformed from that young little carefree girl to a mature Montessori, an LMI. That wherever we say that she is our product, London Montessori product, our own born child, the newborn child, we feel a sense of pride. And there are others who are following. They are all, you see, in fact, I'd like the cameraman to focus on that. All those 4 ladies, senior master trainer, they are all LMI students. And once you hear them, once you see them, once you see their work, I put it open and challenge. If any other training institute can produce products like that, and let's have a little friendly competition then. So that they know and what they're capable of. Hats off to London Montessori, work day and night, and even in our dreams. That what we are today is because of that. And you will agree with me once you hear Ma'am Nazra's lecture and you see our work. Ma'am Itrat, Amina and Shumaila, they are our testing directors. You know what, but they are teachers running huge branches, mashallah, in one day seminar, which we will talk about. You will see what LMI is doing for the Montessori world. So Mrs. Nazra Amreen, who was first accused, are we having a whole session here? Who is this?
Mokhtar said about the book, The Secret of the Childhood, we have a very short topics in that, and almost all the chapters are interrelated with each other. Here, the main, summary, and if you go and take out a class after reading the whole book, the conclusion that we are talking about the rights of the child. And the very first thing of the child right is every child has a right of a childhood. Every child has a right of a childhood. So nature tells us that how to develop the child. We are accused because we are trying to put our rules on the child. This is the first mistake we are taking attempt in the series of mistakes that we try to suppress the child. We try to substitute the child from our personality. We should not do that. Then there is lots of do and don'ts. And here our team expertise is going to tell you in the way. Actually, what the thing is this, whenever we look to the child, no matter 1 day baby or 1 year baby, we feel something empty, something incomplete. Some has to be established. This is yes, this is okay, this is right. The child has to establish. But how? From where? Actually, as I keep telling you people, that the physical construction has been in the womb of the mother. There is nothing the child has to concern with the physical development when he was born. Allah has given every internal and external organs to him, and after birth he has to grow only in size. But what actually the construction is going on after birth, that is the spiritual construction. He has to build spiritually. And for that, we need to understand the child. The child is not in the phase to understand us. The child is very little, he is very first, he entered in this world. He is a stranger. When you enter in any area where you not know, what do? You need a map. You need a direction. You ask to someone. Right? So definitely he needs the same direction as you people need where you need. And who are the directors? We are the directors. The constructive formula is not required that you just explain the way of living and he is able to learn from your explanation. Your own habit, your own environment, your own culture. Actions are louder than the words. At that stage between 0 to 3 and 3 to 6, word has no consent. Language serves as a language. What you are speaking, the child is going to pick as a language. He increases his vocabulary. But as far as where his character is concerned, what is yours, that is going to be transferred automatically. There is no need for you between 0 to 3 and 3 to 6 to scream, to shout for the character. He automatically builds his character by watching you people. But what we feel, we always try to correct the child by commanding, by debates, right? And we always become very hard. No, don't do it. Don't touch it. Don't go there. So this way we are feeling that we are guarding the child. We become the guard of the child. We really not doing good for the child in this way. But our feeling is not bad. We are not consciously doing for bad thinking. We are feeling that we are sacrificing. Look at how much effort we are putting after the child. How much things we have to do for the child. How many energy we require to give him the instructions. But actually, our way is not right. And that's what I'm telling you. We all are doing for the good of the child. But the method is not right. And at last, instead of the good result, most of us receive the bad. And that we become the accused, we feel the guilty. That somewhere we have done wrong. in the past of the child. This is the reason. The child is now like this. So the conflict from very young age starts in the child, with the child. Do and don'ts. The child wants to eat his food by his own, but you are not giving opportunity to the child to do it. The child wants to hold. The child wants to touch. You don't want him to do anything. As if the ball is there, and if the boy is going there for picking the ball, instead of allowing him to go, to move, to struggle for picking it, what we do, we simply pick up the ball and give it in the hand of the child. And what the child do, the child again throws the ball. Because his aim is not to pick up the ball and to play with the ball. His internal energies want him to move. Actually, the all resistance he is putting for movement, and you are afraid of the movement. You don't want him to move. You want to tie the hands. You want to provide every facility on doorstep, because you have a fear of his movement, because that child creates a problem in the environment if he starts moving. And you try all the time that what should I provide, what I have to do that not make him move or less movement. Because whenever he moves, definitely he is going to do something. He's having something in his mind, for that he is moving. He want to touch, he want to taste, he want to feel. This one, for working. Because you feel his movement is nothing, for nothing. But he has lots of things in his mind. When the baby is in the womb, how he construct himself through the movement. The baby will stop moving. Immediately what you do, you rush towards the hospital, that my baby stop moving. And the movement is the life. Is that? Yes. But afterwards, you want to tie with the bandage. And you don't want to move. So from where he is going to be constructed? Actually, he is constructing himself through the movement. So the very first conflict that starts between the child and the parents is about the movement. You want not him to move, and if then go this area, not touch this, go that area, not go there. This is the instructions you are passing. But what actually he is watching you people doing everything, touching everything. Because he is in the sensitive period of imitation. He imitates like you people. He wants to do, he is constructing himself through the act of you people. This is really important line that I am telling you. Actually, we feel that there is some another formula for the children to develop, and there is some another formula for us to exist in this environment. Actually, here we are wrong. हम यहाँ पर गलत हैं, right? The namaz, that is the same way. The way we are praying, same way the child will pray. He born without any idea. He has no religion. If he has any religion at the time of birth, he born without clothes. Right? He born without taste, right? So he has nothing with him except the physical structure. And even before of that, he takes the psychic impression of the life through the impression of the mother. If the mother is happy, the child is happy. If the mother is sad, the child is sad. But immediately after birth, the absorbent mind, as Ma'am Anjumata said, starts working. And now he is receiving every impression on his own psychic life. As per his own psychic life. Now he is there in the first stage and he is establishing himself, but definitely his senses is now start working, and he is receiving every picture from the senses of his own and transferring from senses to the brain. Since the child, we receive every impression of this world. कैसे लेते हैं? कैसे receive करते हैं? Senses. And then senses is going to send the message to the brain. And then brain is going to send the message to the muscles, where muscles start active. So, immediate after birth, definitely his movement was scattered. He was laying, on the bed, on cot, and he has nothing to do purposefully, but he's moving his hand and his legs and hands, and he is gathering himself. He is looking. Don't feel that he is not looking. He is listening. We feel that he is not listening. Bacha hi to hai. And we start doing lots of and saying lots of things which we should not. And we feel that he is just a baby. How come he is possible for him to take? He is taking all the impression and he is building his memory. Is the one day baby is able to talk like me and you? No. How come he learns to talk me and you at the age of 2 years and 2.5 years, definitely he was listening. And he was listening from that stage when you feel that he is not listening. I'm talking about our thinking, adults thinking. बच्चा ही तो है. The Dr. Maria Montessori called a philosopher of the Quran. He's looking everything. He's watching everything. Because he is at that time, even when he was not able to gather his movement was scattered, he was listening. He was watching. And through that listening and watching, mainly, these are the two tools required in the establishment of the personality, in the construction of the soul, that is listening and watching. He do what he watches. He speaks what he listens. So he's just mainly two things. He's watching you people and listening in initial stage. And he is moving, definitely. But his movement was scattered. That was not gathered because the coordination has not yet started properly between the senses, brain and muscles. He is now struggling for that coordination. And slowly and gradually, the more he becomes conscious in this world, as he still stays in the unconscious absorbent mind, but he tried to receive, touch, feel, and that definitely takes a time. From 1 day or 1 week is not required. So I'm not going into it because another topic is movement for that and my other teacher will deliver it. So this is the way he's struggling. But the moment when he is in the stage to come out of the cot, start crawling, start touching, you start debating, commanding, and that is the force. So the question from you people is that, do we allow the child to do anything, to touch everything? No. Then who is the responsible for providing the environment? Mainly the mother. The mother is only one who is able to make the child. Okay? And Allah has given this key in the hands of mother to make the child. Make the child, not making the eyes and the nose, make the soul, make the character. That's the reason many of the educationists said that the mother's lab is the first institution for the child. Mother should not shout upon the child all the time. Out loud, tell everything, but definitely you must understand. When you have to understand the child, come on the level of the child. It's not possible for the child to come on the level of you. You need to bend yourself, not on the size wise, but internally, feeling wise. You must have to go on that line, on that bottom line. You have to go in the core of the heart of the child to understand the feeling of the child. And who tells? Definitely the child is not in the stage to tell everything. That Mama, I want this, Mama, I want that. His nature. Like day before yesterday, I went to one of the party where one of 2-year boy was sitting in my chair and my round table, and he was asking lots of questions about the mummy. Ishti mummy kaun hai? आपकी मम्मी कौन थी? मैंने कहा मेरी मम्मी घर पे है. तो आपका बेटा कहाँ है? फिर अपनी माँ से. आपके बच्चे कौन हैं? अपनी मामा से. तुम मेरे बच्चे. I'm talking exactly in the. मेरी मम्मी कौन है? And his sensitive period is there, with the term mummy, mom, and he is asking lots of questions. So what is the duty of the mother to say, बस चुप कर जाओ, अब मत बोलना? Or is the duty of the mother to just explain the relation what he is asking? The mother needs a patience. If she doesn't have a time for their children, nobody has a time in this world for their children. So do not later on, feel guilty that I have not done something for my child. And definitely, who is the first in the life of the child? The mother, then the father, then the teachers. Teachers play a very important role. The teacher can make and break the personality. So teachers, you must be aware of this word, not feel guilty later on by when you're back at the home and you wind up, yes, I did bad. Don't do it. Control yourself and do transfer every good thing to the child, but not with the commands, but with your own act. Right? So this is the way when you take care of the children, definitely that is your duty to take care of your child. Do not leave the child and draw the limits. But definitely when you are drawing it, you must have to prove through your practical experience, and the child will definitely reach towards the limits of his own through the experimental exposure which you have drawn in the life you are not, it is not possible for you to stop him to watch the TV, because if he feels at that stage, may you are able, because of his size, suppress the child, control the child with the fear, something like that. But the day comes, after 12 years, he immediately stand in front of you and start arguing a lot that why not I, why you? Because he is not in the state to understand the difference like that. So what you want for the child, you first do yourself, otherwise later on you feel guilty. Thank you very much.
There is no substitute for being able to write with a pen or a pencil and make a mental note. These new technologies of taking pictures of these transparency or recording it, it's not going to help you. You notice that some of you are recording the lectures and all that. Of course, you want it to further your knowledge, but the better technique is to be listening. If we had to give you if just a movie of the lectures would be helpful, we would be just provided and we would have to need to have such session. So focus on what we are saying instead of focusing on. So the best thing is that all students, we request you, humbly request you to kindly put away your mobile. Mobiles are a very important aspect. We cannot say there has been a lot of research of the side effects of holding the mobile in your hands. And nowadays, only during sleeping hours, we are not holding it, but almost X, Y, Z, every talk they can have it. And I think this is maybe only in Pakistan like that. The masses are walking on the road, the beggar is sitting on the road, and sabzi wala, and everybody has a mobile, rickshaw wala. Abroad, that is not like that. And how do they manage to load in the balance and how they can afford a mobile? It's beyond my understanding. And that means people just talk all the time. So, put your mobile on silence, put it in your bag, and then if we find you still not following the instruction, you won't like us to come to you and treat you badly and take it away from you, stuff like that. And then Mrs. Nazra Amreen, she spoke about the accused. And who is the accused? So sad. So sad. Because we do it unconsciously. I mean, how could you label, how could you say that this parent, her mother doesn't love her child? A mother would wish anything bad for a child? I missed the part of a lecture, but it's like, if somebody is suffering from fever, you want them to get well. And unconsciously, due to ignorance, you're giving them wrong medicine. And instead of getting better, the condition is getting worse. And then sometimes they die. That's exactly what we are doing to children around us. We are just taking the wrong way of helping them out. But now, there's a different view because we are beginning to know and we are beginning to understand the child. This is very minute. So, I think the French is very minute. So we can just leave it. Let's put that away. The next little topic, and that is the biological interlude. Do you know what is the beginning process of any living creature? All living beings, whether it is animals, plants, an animal higher level, that is the human being, we all have our beginning and the starting point with one single primitive germ cell. One invisible tiny dot. And long ago, in the 18th century, the religious people, the philosophers, the scientists, they believed and they came to the conclusion that in that first
original germ cell, there is a miniature, tiny, invisible, complete being. Meaning, if you are looking at the germ cell of a plant, if you look very closely, it would be a miniature plant, complete, baby plant. So too, if you are looking at the first primitive germ cell of a chick, it would be a minute, tiny little chick. And if you're looking at the germ cell of a human being, the starting point would be a baby human being with a heart and ears, nose and everything. That's what they believed. But is that so? No. Because they looked at the germ cell, and by the time they looked at it, they had studied the plant germ cell, and maybe it was after the fertilization, maybe about 3, 4, 5 weeks. So they actually saw the tinies. They saw little leaves and they saw little stem, and that's how they came to the conclusion. But then there was a scientist called K.F. Wolf. After the discovery of the microscope, he studied these primitive germ cells through the microscope. And what does the microscope do? It magnifies. So when he saw that primitive, original, tiny one-dot germ cell, he announced to the world that there is nothing like, in that there is not a miniature human being. It's just a blob, it's just a dot. And then he studied more and he did more research and he came up with a conclusion and he announced to the world that there is no such thing like a miniature human being already existing in the germ cell. In fact, it goes through a complete process of development. For the human being, it takes about 9 months. So at that time when he made this discovery and announcement, people disagreed. And the first person who came up with this new branch of science called embryology, studying the embryonic before the birth, was K.F. Wolf. And he was like, people said, he's a madman. And especially the religious group of people, they say, oh, that's a sin. What is he saying? There is a complete human being in that germ cell. And how could he make such a statement that it develops? No, it doesn't happen. And when he tried to make his point more clear, he was not accepted. And the first founder of the embryology